So please excuse the slightly sweaty head. I just got back from the gym, but this interview, I mean, I say this every single time. They're always great watches, but in this interview, I interview my student Joe, who's just acquired a $200,000 funded account. He was or is a construction worker, property developer, all of that good stuff. But he started his trading journey so that he could find a way to make money online, and he has just acquired his 200K funded account after learning my mechanical strategy. So give it a watch, drop a comment below, make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, and if you would like some assistance with your trading, there'll be a link down in the description. Click that, watch the free training, and let's have a chat. But enjoy the video, I'll see you in the next one.
Thank you very much. Okay,
Bill. Congratulations, by the way, what an achievement.
Thank you very much, mate. Yeah, thank you. It's been a tough road, but got there eventually.
We got there. To be fair, when one thing that I always pick up on with people is how quickly they pay their invoices, and like correlating that to people actually succeeding. And I remember when I sent you the invoice, it was like 5 a.m. or something, and I think I sent it to you, and with about 30 seconds, I had the notification to see that it was paid. Like I was like, the second I saw that, I was like, he's gonna make it 100%.
And I think that goes for probably a lot of people in it. It's you either know that you're gonna achieve it. It's just a matter of when. And I think it's probably this. Everyone's probably very similar mindset. Probably a bit of an entrepreneurial mindset, I think, isn't it? That
100%.
it's not a case of am I gonna pass? It's how long is it going to take until I pass?
Yeah, 100%. Like, I mean, we've seen it so many times. Like the people that have to sit there and think about it for ages and then take like weeks to make a decision, they just end up giving up. It happens all the time. But the people that like we have a call with, they just say, yeah, let's get it done. We send them an invoice, they pay the invoice, they get into the training. They're always the ones that do the best. It's like, it's a weird thing, but I think it just comes down to like, yeah, just having like, I'm going to invest in myself. I'm going to learn what I need to learn, and I'm going to go and get the results. It's just like very straight to the point, get things done mindset.
Yeah, yeah, but there was no sort of. I did as much due diligence as I thought that I could, and tried, because it's going to be the same for a lot of people, isn't it? Is this guy, I've just seen him off Instagram. I followed his link, and he's asking for this much money for this, and is it legit? But you've got to take a bit of a leap of faith, or take a risk in anything you do to progress, I think.
I mean, it's the same as trading, right? In trading, if you see an opportunity, that opportunity is going to be around for a couple of minutes, and then the opportunity's gone. So if you can't make decisions and assess decisions quickly and then execute on those decisions, you're not going to be a good trader. So I think that's kind of how it works, to be fair. Like with people that do just pull the trigger and get things done.
Yeah, yeah. So no, glad to get it over the line. It's cost me a bit of money to get here, but as I say, it's a cost of achieving something to kind of pay you for longer term. So
yeah, that's it. Well, when I saw you posting about that trade this morning, I thought, hopefully he's got that EU trade on that 200K account, and I think it was up like 5R when I messaged you, and I was like, please God, has he just banked like a 10K trade here? Like that just been the best introduction to this interview. So good.
If I was ready to go, I'd have took it. But because I've stuck to my routine. I've had 3 days of sitting on my hands, and in all honesty, after I passed that first challenge, I thought, shall I just go straight in for a second challenge, because I feel like I'm there. I don't want to sit on my hands. But then I sort of said to myself, look, this is good practice now to be more controlled. Sit on your hands, wait it out when you need to wait it out. And I still did what I have been doing, and followed the markets and saw that setup, and I sort of set that trade up to a 3R, and it was like a 10-minute trade.
Yeah, yeah, really nice position.
Another one that played out yesterday as well that was pretty much just as quick.
Yeah, no, 100%, 100%. Well, I just wanted to, like I do with all of these interviews, just like start from the very beginning, really. I mean, it was, I think, like 7-8 months ago that we initially had a discussion. So I kind of want to go back to like pre that conversation, just to understand a little bit about your journey, really. So I guess just a brief introduction on yourself then. So obviously you're Joe, as everybody will know, but give a bit of a background to yourself.
Builder by trade. I've worked for myself since, I think, me and my brother set up our first building company when I was 19 or 20. And I've always thrown ourselves into the deep end. Me and him are very similar mindset. So we sort of ran with that, and we tried to build on the building company, moving into more commercial shop fitting areas, as well as taking on domestic. So we were doing everything. We were doing too much. We were a bit sort of crazy with it, and too busy really. But we've always been looking for passive income. Is what I've always tried to get hold of really. So I've got a couple of small properties, and I'm trying to build on the property portfolio as well, to try and build that up. And I'd have loved. I wanted something internet based to start generating some money. So I've looked at sort of e-commerce and buying and selling on eBay. I know you did a bit of that. I've looked at a lot of different things, and I don't know what it is. I don't know what it was, but one of your videos popped up on Instagram, and it got me. And I've seen thousands of these, and I'm not sure what it was. And I've tried to go back through and see which video it was, and I can't figure out which one it was. But I just ended up following that, and then we had a chat, and then it kind of spiraled from there, really.
Yeah. So before our conversation, then, so like when you were in that period of like looking for something to do online, had you ever traded before at all? Did you come to us as a complete beginner?
I have traded, but with no knowledge whatsoever. I had a Toro account or a plus 500 account, and I was gambling basically, and didn't make much money at all. I brought some crypto about 3 years ago, which is still in the red, so that's just sat there. Hoping one day that it gets back to evens and so I can get it out. But no, not really traded with any sort of understanding of what I was doing. So yeah, I was pretty much a beginner.
Yeah.
With you.
Yeah. So just this very typical, oh, I see this investing thing. Let me find some apps on the App Store and see how it goes type of thing.
Exactly that. Yeah. And it didn't go very well, as you can imagine.
Yeah, I can imagine. So what was it about? Obviously, you looked at a load of different online business models. What was it about trading that sort of attracted you more to trading as opposed to sort of these other things?
Probably the strategic side of it. I quite like. I've got quite an addictive personality, which I think is important for this. But yeah, I kind of could see that was something that I could really get my teeth into and learn. And I love learning new things and learning new skills. And I'm quite an advocate for sort of personal development and everything else. So I was more than happy to invest some money. I've invested money into my personal growth in different ways, or into property and stuff. So I was more than happy to do it. I just wanted to make sure that it was the right thing. And
yeah. So obviously, speaking to us, then, I mean, did you have conversations with other people, other educators and stuff like that?
No, nobody. No.
Okay.
No. Sorry, come on.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I've recently finished reading a book, which was Jordan Belfort's book, so off the back of The Wolf of Wall Street, and it's about his sales strategy, and it's just
like this straight line selling method.
Straight line selling. It's just dawned on me then that he classed himself as I can't remember, basically easy to sell to, and if he's got something in his mind, he's already sold. And this was me with trading and you. I think I was already sold on it. I just needed a couple of things, and that was it. I was pulling the trigger, and we were doing it.
Yeah. So what made you go with us then? I mean, obviously you hadn't had conversations with other people, so it's kind of like there's no comparison there. But what made you feel comfortable with actually saying, okay, like, because you didn't just come in and say, oh, I'd start at the lowest end of your packages. You came in, you went, okay, I'm going to go full on. I want all the mentorship you can give me. You just sort of threw yourself in the deep end. What sort of made you or helped you make that decision about the sort of process that we went through in the beginning?
Speaking with you face to face, that first contact. So the first contact I had was yourself, and we did this. We had a Zoom call. I was at work. I was doing some shop fitting somewhere. I had to go sit in the dark office of a service station somewhere so we could have this conversation. And but yeah, I think what made me feel comfortable was actually sitting down and speaking with yourself.
Yeah.
And hearing a bit of your story. And then I did a bit of due diligence and a bit of digging into what you've done and where the company is and stuff. Where I'm not really knowing what I'm looking for, but I suppose looking for a red flag that sort of jumps out, and I couldn't see one. So, and as I said, if I'm going to do something, I'm doing it properly. I want to do it to its fullest.
Yeah.
I very much believe that if you want to be good at something, you've got to be taught by somebody who is a professional in it.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, I'm the same. Like, I've invested in a number of different things outside of trading, even to help myself and my knowledge,
Yeah,
and to help me increase my knowledge on things that I need to understand to become a better business person, a better educator, etc. So, yeah, I can definitely agree with that. So, obviously, the journey hasn't been smooth by any stretch of the imagination. There's been ups, there's been downs, and there's definitely been times where it's got very, very difficult. I mean, we've had a number of conversations where it's been very, very tough. So, obviously, since starting that process, obviously pulling the trigger, joining the program, up until sort of now, where you're now a multi six-figure funded trader, what are the sort of main struggles that you think that you've gone through in that period to help you get to where you are today?
I think mindset is always what you hear, but and there's not really a way to teach to control your mindset. You've got to go through the hardship to figure out what people mean by controlling your mindset and being disciplined, and so that I think you have to go through the hardship. When I was going through the tough times, and I felt like I didn't know, I'd open the charts up, and this was like 6 months. This was 2 months ago, 3 months ago. I'd open the charts and I'd be looking at it. And I'm like, well, what am I looking at? I don't know what I'm doing. But I did know that that was an important part of understanding the process and getting the process. So I was never going to give up on it. I felt like, shit, should I be doing this? Should I actually? Because I stopped taking projects on and work on. So I started this in January this year, and a month after I started, I stopped taking on other work, and I've been focusing on this for the last sort of 7 months. So it was a massive commitment and risk, I suppose, but I could see the value in it.
Yeah. Yeah, and some of the things that you did come up against, obviously learning to deal with psychology and stuff like that. I mean, what sort of things did you do and did you implement into your routine, your trading, that sort of helped you get through that sort of fairly difficult 2 to 3 month period where it was sort of, okay, how do I make these breakthroughs to get myself to being profitable? What sort of things did you implement to sort of help you?
I implemented quite a few different things. I can't really pinpoint it down to one in particular, but I suppose the latest one that I sort of took on full-heartedly was the handwritten journal, which George Cook preaches about, and it was at Mastermind Weekend in London. He explained it, and I'm not one for journaling, but I thought, let's give it a go. So I bought myself a book, and it's next to the computer, and every day I was writing down. I was being honest with myself. I've just put on 3 trades in 1 hour, which chasing a trade after a loss, and I've lost. So, and I'll be writing everything down that I could think of, and it's amazing how quickly you fill a page. Then the next morning, I'd read through that, and then what I'd done badly the day before, I tried not to do it the next day, which you still do, and you just try and break it down. You basically just try and get rid of the bad habits, and stay strict with the process that you've learned.
Yeah, I guess it kind of comes down to the saying, like, what's measured is managed. Like, it kind of just that's like a blanket term for a lot of things that go into trading. Like, if you don't know your data, if you don't know what you're doing, then how do you expect to go and manage that? So if you're doing something that is ultimately leading to getting negative results, if you don't track what you're doing there, then how on earth can you possibly figure out what's going wrong, and then how can you possibly manage it? I think as well, I mean, we've had discussions about it before, sort of doing that weekly trade assessment. That was something that you implemented as well.
And I've tried to, everything that people have been saying in the community, especially you and George, have been saying to do, I've been trying to do it to its fullest. So I've been back testing where I should have done. I've been keeping logs of every trade. Then you've shown your trade assessment for that week. Even you, 9-10 years into it, are still doing these trade assessments. And it was so powerful to see. It doesn't matter that you're only working at 1% of, or you're catching 1 trade out of 10. You're seeing the trades, you're collecting the data, and it's that really has pushed me forward.
Yeah, and I think it's also like back testing. Like, I think one of the best processes that traders can go through. I actually had a one-on-one with somebody yesterday, and we spoke about this. It's like, when you get into trading, you're going to do your back testing to sort of compress the time it takes you to get that experience. you're going to do your forward testing to help you just get accustomed to executing when the markets are live. But then I think what's super important to understand your optimization and also help you build that muscle memory is that weekly trade assessment. Like looking at what you're doing and then looking at your back tested results for the week and saying, okay, well, if I made 2% this week, but my strategy actually offered 10%, well, then you're only working at 20% optimization. But instead of just sitting there and leaving it at that, you can then say, okay, well, why did I miss this trade? Why did I miss that trade? And you can start to learn. I mean, it's not from your mistakes, right? But you start to learn, okay, why didn't I take that trade? What was I thinking at in this stage? But like the whole point is, if you don't do that, you're never going to know this information. So what do you expect to then work on? And I think, I mean, like looking at like the conversations we've had and what you posted and stuff, I think it's as soon as you started to really realize that you need to actually put the work in away from the charts. That's really, it looks like that's kind of what just completely moved the needle for you, and you sort of kicked on pretty much straight away from that point.
That is where the majority of the work is, like finding the trades or finding the setup for trades. It is so ridiculously simple, but it's managing everything else, knowing when to pull the trigger on that. And what I was doing a lot of was putting on, because there's 10 setups a day, but there's one or two that might actually play, or that are more probable to play your way. So it's understanding that, seeing these sweeps of liquidity that we're waiting for, understanding that that's not the right one. Whereas 2 months ago, every single sweep of liquidity, I was setting a trade, and it's and now looking back, it doesn't take long till you actually step over that line and look back and think, I can see now what I was doing and what I need to be waiting for.
Yeah, again, it's muscle memory, right? I mean, it's the same as anything. Like when you start, you just kind of just do everything on, like, you just follow what it tells you to do. You just do it, but you don't have that. I always say, like, when you're trading mechanically, which is obviously what we do, we have a set of mechanical rules that we follow. There's always, I don't think you can ever be 100% mechanical unless you're trading a bot, but then that bot is probably just going to end up making you lose money. So you always have to understand that there's going to be like maybe 5 to 10% discretion involved. And that discretion comes from, I think, that pattern recognition. Like you understand what the good setups look like. You understand what the bad setups look like. You understand what the good confirmations look like, the bad confirmations look like, and you start to build that pattern recognition. And then when you see that playing out, you know already that it's going to be a good trade. You know when the probabilities are much more in your favor for a certain position. And then you could also say, okay, I'm not really liking this one. I've seen this happen before, and it's not really a trade that I want to take. And you can put those like psychological rules into your trading and help you sort of mitigate some of the losses that like 2 months ago you might have taken, but now you know to sort of sit back, not take that trade, and ultimately that's then what allows you to be more profitable a little bit easier.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I've done. You kind of go through a process of looking why you should get into a trade, to then flipping it, why should I not get into this trade? What are we reacting from? What are we aiming, going towards, and stuff like that? And that's what's elevated my trading, I think, now is looking why not to get into a trade.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I guess on that point, obviously when it comes to our strategies, I mean, a million people talk about the best strategy in the world. They've got this, they've got that. But when it comes to the strategies that we've taught and that we preach about and that we use on a day-to-day basis, how have you found the strategies? I mean, how have you found sort of getting used to them and understanding them? I mean, has that been an easy process for you? I mean, yeah, just sort of give me your opinions. How have they been for you?
Learning the confirmations on the 1 minute time frame, I got that very quickly, and I knew what to look for. I knew sort of how it looks. But what took me longer was to wait out for these stronger liquidity sweeps rather than every sweep of liquidity. Understanding which one's more likely to play based on the bias of the market and which way it's going. And but yeah, I think I did pick it up pretty quickly. I'm quite a fast learner, and that's been one of the frustrating things. Is that generally I watch something once or do something once, and I sort of know how to do it. Whereas this was a real test, because you've got to watch it thousands and thousands and thousands of times to then start eventually getting it. So that was a challenge. But yeah, I think I kind of grasped the concept pretty quickly. It's just when to actually pull that trigger.
Yeah, no, 100%. And it's like, you like you're saying, like you have to build that bit of discretion to say like, okay, like yes, we could consider this a point of liquidity, but is it a strong point of liquidity? Like you have to think psychologically, will we have traders trading from these certain zones, like looking at major structure instead of like the little minor structure, like understanding, okay, this minor structural area, yes, we could react, but we know it's going to be a lower probability. And I think like getting used to that fact and not just being like, it's liquidity, I'm going to trade it, and building that knowledge, I think is definitely important for sure.
Definitely, yeah. I think there's a lot of people that are still doing that within the community, is seeing a sweep of liquidity wherever it is and however strong it is, and thinking that's where a trade's going to play from. So
Yeah.
it's definitely something you've got to go through.
Well, yeah, I think like you have to sort of, obviously you can have your sort of mechanical strategy, right? And yes, fundamentally it's very simple, but you also have to understand the like price delivery. Like we know that that first run on liquidity of the day is going to be the best trade, and that's ideally what we're looking for. If you start to then look for every single sweep after that in the session, we know that we're probably going to get taken out of those trades. So it's then having the discipline to actually stick to that price delivery model and be able to sit on your hands and not just look at this like completely mechanically without using your head at all and saying, okay, like I've seen like ASR highs are taken, ASR lows are taken. I now don't really understand exactly what's going to go on, and then being able to sort of taper back and say, okay, I'm going to sit on my hands now and I'll come back tomorrow if there's nothing. I think that's something that a lot of traders need to, or a lot of traders sort of learn to come around to, that patience definitely does pay in that instance.
That's what gets you over that line, isn't it? Is understanding, well, I'm not sure. So even at the start of the day, if it's been a bit choppy, not sure which way it's going, just wait for it to do its thing and then see if you can catch a trade on the back once you know what it's doing, rather than trying to predict. Somebody put in the community, probably about a month ago, stop trying to predict which way it's going, or stop predicting that it's going to sweep this and go the other way, because it will do the opposite of what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
You think it's going to do. So just wait to see what it's doing and then follow that.
Yeah, 100%. And it's something that I say a lot, is like, you have to remember that your opinions just don't matter. Every mistake I make is when I make an opinion. If I say, oh, I think this is going to happen, and then I don't take a trade because I'm thinking something's going to happen, that's when I missed the trade, right? The trade plays out, it's run liquidity in the opposite direction that I think it's going to do, and then there's a setup that I can trade that. But then because I've started to think and give my opinions, I miss a perfectly valid position. So I think it's like, you definitely have to find this. There's a line there where you have to not go over that line in terms of thinking you're smarter than the charts or smarter than the strategy, and you just got to kind of just say like, okay, I'll trade what I see, I'll go with the flow, and I think that's sort of really where you find that profitability.
Yeah, yeah. There was definitely a lot of times where I felt like the market moved off what I did, because I'd put a position on and it would do the exact opposite straight away, and I'm like, how does it know this? But it's just understanding that that's how, getting on the other side of that is how you start understanding how the market is moving in it, and it is doing that to take people out on a bigger level. But
yeah, no, 100%. So obviously we went through the process, you learned the strategies, we spent a lot of time sort of going through data and looking over your trades and stuff like that, and then we sort of made the jump into going into live markets. So started the challenge. How was that process? How did you react to then moving into live markets?
on the challenges, when I was actually on the starting the challenges, not very well at the start. For me personally, my gambler inside took over. I think my second challenge in, on day one, I went up 8.5% on day one, and then I was like, well, I can do this in day one. I can do this in one day. Then eventually lost that, and then lost that account. So I'd lost almost £20,000 on that account, virtual pounds. So it was tough mentally to get around to understanding that you only need three positive trades back to back to pass the whole stage of getting funded. And once you sort of understand that, and 3 trades, it might take a week, it might take 2 weeks, but as long as you're waiting for those 3 trades, that is what's going to get you where you're ultimately trying to get to, and that's making profit.
Yeah. So like when you moved into into a challenge for the first time, I say it to everybody because it's like getting slapped around the face trying to figure out how to trade in live markets. Like demo account, like we were demo account, you were profitable, you were placing the best trades, and then the second that you got into into a challenge, it was kind of like this is a whole new world here. Like this is just completely different.
There's so much more pressure on it you're applying to yourself because you've got a target to hit. I texted you the other day when I found out that I'd passed. And he was like, just keep trading as you are. Like, and if anything, it's easier. And I already feel like there's less pressure. And I already feel if I don't put a trade on for 3 days, it doesn't matter because I've only got to wait for that one trade to show itself, which I will see. And then you're profitable. There's no good just throwing trades on because ultimately this is the money that we've been seeking to earn.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
And it doesn't take a lot, right? When you're like, I always say there's really only three things that you need to become a really successful trader. Number one is an edge in the market, whether that's an edge that gives you 5% average a month, 10%, whatever that may be. You need to learn how to manage your risk, otherwise that edge goes out the window. And then number three, you need capital, right? Once you've got all of those three, you have everything you need to be a very, very successful trader. And like you're now funded with 200K. It's like you have to remember that like one trade of 3%, 5% on that account isn't just a little bit of pocket change. Like it's a shitload of money.
Yeah.
And I think so many traders are in the mindset of like they have to just trade, they have to place trade after trade after trade, they have to do all of these trades to make all of this money. But it very much is a case of like understanding what your edge is going to present, understanding what your mechanical rules are, and you have to stay patient. Like this is where like I think a lot of people get mixed up with psychology, right? They like and psychology and discipline. Like so many people can blame their discipline and they can say, oh, I just wasn't disciplined. But it's like, well, if you don't have a set of mechanical rules that you follow, then how on earth do you know what to be disciplined towards? And I think having that is super powerful. Like you just wait for the opportunities when they pull the trigger, and then that's where the money comes from.
Yeah. So I definitely feel in a good mindset to be starting this funded account. Just waiting for the right opportunity because there's no point just throwing profit away.
Mm-hmm.
Well, wait. Now we don't have that objective to try and hit the 10% or the 5% of the challenge. Just relax and realise that it's long-term income.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, if you can pass a challenge, you can make money on the challenge. Yeah. It's just about staying disciplined and not getting too big for your boots and blowing the account before you've made any money on it. I think the amount of people I've spoken to that have done things like that is crazy. But yeah, if you can keep a good head and you can stay disciplined towards set of rules, then there is the money's there to be made. So it was, you failed 2 challenges, right? Failed three, and then passed the 4th.
Yeah.
Cool.
Definitely think you need a couple of failures. Don't be afraid to fail them because that's what's going to ultimately, when you're spending money and losing money, that's when you're going to learn. That's when you're going to get your fingers burnt and learn to change things. And I was quite good at. I was following a process for a couple of weeks and it wasn't helping me. Stop having that process. Implement something new. Try something different that people are suggesting, and then if that doesn't work, try something else. And I kept trying to implement new things, and eventually you get all the pieces to that puzzle, and it kind of puts itself together.
Yeah. So from those 3 failed challenges, what do you think are like the main things that you learned from those that ultimately then led you to be able to go and get a pass on the 4th one?
Patience in waiting for the correct trade and following the flow of the market.
Just like my screenshots say. Just like my screenshots say.
As I put on that post on the community, yeah. And it's so, and until you get it, that doesn't make any sense really. Until that penny drops, that doesn't really make any sense. You're thinking, of course, following the flow, but until that penny drops, it doesn't really mean that much to you.
Yeah, and even now, like almost 10 years into this, I still need that reminder on a day-to-day basis. Like, it's all well and good trying to catch reversals all the time. I don't know why we're just naturally attracted to catching reversals. It's very strange. Yeah. But when you start to flip the switch and say, okay, like if the market's bearish, I'm just going to try and catch these sells. Like, I'm just going to see if there's any short opportunities. Like if there's a counter trend, then yeah, cool. But it has to be within reason. Yeah. And yeah, the second that you can really just gauge that, like it just makes your life so much easier. Like you don't sit in trades forever. Your TPs get hit. And yeah, it's just a much easier process.
Yeah.
So we're now funded. I want a little summary from you, really. I mean, this has been like 8 months. We've definitely worked hard on this. We've implemented a ton of things. So how have you found the journey with us? And I guess what have been your sort of favorite things that we've done, or the best things that we've done to help you with this journey?
I think the best thing for me from what you've been providing is I signed up for, like you said, the biggest level of mentorship package with yourself. Now, it costs me a fair amount of money, but it's an investment into what you're trying to achieve. There's no point just coming into this half-heartedly and trying to muddle your way through it. I wanted to be fully in. I wanted to have you at the end of the phone if I needed you to the right direction, and that is ultimately what helped me progress so fast. You've got to be disciplined. Got to set yourself a good routine, which I got into at the start of this. I was getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning. For the first month of this, I was working for an hour and a half. Then I was getting up and I was leaving by 7 o'clock, and then I'll probably do a bit of back testing at night. And I was just stuck with that. I carried on getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and I didn't drink for the first 6 months of doing it. I didn't touch a drop of alcohol since the start of the year, which I was telling myself that this was all part of the process. So you've got to make sacrifices, but the community, the WeTrade community, is so powerful for people, for just understanding that there's so many people in the same boat, and to have people there that you speak to on a daily basis. They're all putting in the same motions. You put a trade on and lose it, and then you're like, shit, what happened there? And then even you would say, oh, I've just lost that one as well, and you're like, okay, that's well, you don't feel as bad about it. You understand that probably was the right trade. It just didn't play out for whatever reason. So it's great to have that community there to fall back on.
Yeah, I think the support network is huge. Like the amount of people I've spoken to where it's like they've been so close to just giving up, but because they've had somebody or a group of people to turn to and get assistance from, get help from, get support from, that's allowed them to get back on track, to begin focusing again, and then ultimately go on to achieve results. So I think, like, I wish I had a community when I first started, but I was just like a broke teenager with no money. I mean, there wasn't really much about when I was learning to trade, so it wasn't really there. But I think that's kind of what we're trying to do, right? I've kind of tried to put together what I wanted when I was getting started in trading and what I knew would have helped me. So yeah, it's definitely good to see that it's now generating people results.
Together, because it's going to change quite a lot of people's lives, I think. So
that's the goal. That's the goal. So just to round things up then, obviously there's going to be people here that are watching this interview. Maybe they've booked in a call, they're watching this interview before the call, or they've had a call, they're sitting on the fence. What would you say to those people that are just sat there? They want to learn how to trade, but they're hesitant whether to invest in learning with us.
I think there's risks from both sides. There's risk from taking the plunge and signing up, and there's risk from not. The risk from signing up and it might not be in a legit company is you might lose a few £1,000. The risk for not doing anything is you sit still and you don't make any progress, and you get up at 6 o'clock and go to work that next day, and you do that for the next 40 years of your life. So in my head, that's the bigger risk. You might lose a few thousand if it isn't legit. Do your due diligence, try and figure out yourself whether it is, speak to some more people. Just, you've got to take a risk, take the leap, because it's either that or having your 9 to 5 for the next 40 years of your life.
Yeah. No, that's it. That's the long and short of it. Well, like, what's the bigger risk? You not taking action and not achieving anything, or you taking action and it not working? Like,
yeah.
I think being on the fence is the most toxic place, to be honest with you. Like, the action takers are the money makers, as they say. So yeah, I'm 100% with you on that. But yeah, thanks for jumping on anyway. Again, congratulations on hitting that funding. I'm sure you're going to go and get a payout very soon. I was hoping it was going to be on the first trade today. I was really hoping to kick this interview off with a little 10 grand trade made. That'd have been lovely. But yeah, we'll do another one. We'll do another one. We'll, obviously you've only just got funded now, so we'll get some more funding under the belt, get some payouts done, and we'll do another one, and we'll take things from there. But thank you very much for jumping on, mate.
Cheers, mate. See you, George.